from a secret underground bunker somewhere in the Arizona desert, 40 feet below the Earth's surface. Two men, aided by their robotic artificial intelligence, Jennifer,
at your service.
hide from their wives and kids to discuss man stuff with interesting and unusual people. These men are the Bunker Boys. We are indeed the Bunker Boys,
Yes,
and
we are.
we're back at you. And we hope that you'll stick around with us and be entertained, because we've got some interesting things to talk about. As always, there's
For
always
once.
something. For
Yeah.
once. Yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll see, yeah.
Yeah, at least we didn't steal a butterfly or anything like that. A rare butterfly that only lives 115 days.
Yeah.
Woman from Ohio. He was in Cincinnati at some park, some botanical garden where they have a butterfly exhibit, and she steals a butterfly, and they have her on camera. Stupid.
Stealing the butterfly.
I hate when people do stupid stuff, but maybe it'll prevent them from doing something bigger and stupid.
A bigger butterfly?
A bigger butter. What was that on Johnny Carson? Copper clapper?
Copper, clapper, caper.
Copper caper. Clapper caper.
Copper, clapper, caper.
Easy for you to say. And then we've, of course, got our Jennifer with us today. Jen?
Jennifer at your service.
Okay. That's the
Hello,
way it should
Jen.
be. And Jen,
Yes.
thank you for being there.
Thank you, boys.
You're so welcome.
See?
Yeah. And just when you thought you'd heard everything, you know, Kim Jong-il, Mr. North Korea, short guy with his finger on the button.
Ill. I thought it was
Un. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, Kim Jong-un. Il was his dad. That's right. See, I'm flashing back
His
a few
dad's
years.
dead and he's not ill.
He's not. He's no longer ill
He's no
anymore.
longer ill.
That's right. Well, Kim Jong-un carries his own toilet wherever he goes, so that no one can test his DNA and learn any health information about him. So even in his entourage, when he has vehicles traveling,
He has a porta potty
he
in
has
there.
a porta potty in there. I guess one vehicle has a toilet in it, so he can stop and get into that one, or maybe he's just in that one. But no one, of course, knows which car he is in.
He's a strange one.
Yeah, bizarre. I don't
guess
trust this guy.
Yeah, I guess who does? I guess he doesn't fly. He doesn't like to fly, so he takes the train everywhere.
Yeah, I've heard that. He even has special vehicles that are designed for mountainous terrain or snow, so that he doesn't get stuck anywhere.
Oh,
I haven't heard that. That makes sense. Well, we have Air Force
yeah.
One, and I don't think we have Train One.
train one.
Unicycle One.
The bullet one.
What other vehicles could he have? Roller Skates One.
What'd they call the bullet train? Yeah.
Yeah, the bullet train.
Not the fastest train, or was the fastest train or something.
Yeah,
Like that, wasn't it?
and now those maglev trains in Japan are the fastest.
Are they?
Yeah, they're levitating trains that actually don't even touch the track.
Oh, that's right,
They
huh?
levitate on magnet force field, and they zip. They can go 200 plus miles an hour.
Now, what happened? Even on a curve, they could. I
Well-
wonder how that works.
I think they're programmed to slow down on the curves, but they still go much faster than a regular train because they're not in contact
Boy,
with it.
that'd be some smooth riding. Huh?
Yeah, it would. Yeah,
Wow.
you wouldn't have any bumps unless, of course, the track went up a hill or had a sudden bump.
Right.
But you couldn't have that on a maglev. That's interesting.
That is. Leave it to the Japanese.
Yeah, they did something really cool there.
But you know, the Japanese country is so small on the map. I mean, how long can they make the train track?
Yeah, but it's kind of like, you know, the state looks small on the map, but it's pretty long.
So I guess that would be just like taking two magnets and put them opposite end and they push each other away, huh?
Yep, that's exactly right.
And then I wonder how they would get that all managed out.
Well, what they do is every so many feet, I don't know if it's every 3 feet or if it's farther than that, there are magnets, and they're electromagnets. So what they end up doing is they reverse the polarity of every other one. So as the train gets pushed forward, because it has its own magnets inside the train, as it gets pushed forward and repelled by one set of magnets, the next set of magnets that it runs into pulls it close, and then once it's over top, it repels it as well, because they reverse the polarity. So the track could be positive, the negative, positive, negative, every other one, and then even within those every other ones, they switch polarity. So as they switch back and forth very quickly, it pushes the train forward.
Wow.
And as it gets to a certain speed, then it just is a maintenance thing. Then at that point, they flash them on and off real fast, and just to keep it moving. So it never slows down.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That's pretty
It's
wild.
really fascinating how it works.
It is.
Well, Lake Erie, off the coast of Toledo, in 1829, there was a merchant ship that went down, or maybe I should say a cargo ship. It was called the Lake Serpent. It was built in Cleveland back in 1821, so if it went down in 29, it was only around 8 years. Only 1,000 Cleveland residents at the time that it was built. And it was a cargo ship that carried flour, limestone, whiskey, and produce. It went down just off the coast of Kelly's Island, which is a nice little summer resort island out in the lake, Lake Erie. And a lot of party people go there in the summertime. I've never been there, but I have friends that have gone there many times. But the ship went down, and I think it was because of storm activity. Well, they found it. Some divers were looking for it, and they found it.
Oh, we don't.
Based on where it went down and what happened, they think it was this ship. They're still not absolutely certain, but they say they've narrowed it down to 3 ships. So out of those 3, they think it was the Lake Serpent. So they're going to go diving, and once they find the masthead, because it's got a distinctive carved dragon or serpent on the front, and if they find that, they'll know for sure they've got it right. But they're going to be digging it up pretty soon. It's buried in feet of silt.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You ever gone diving?
Snorkeling, not diving. I was learning how to scuba dive in high school, but
Yeah.
I guess the class got canceled, and so everybody had to quit.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd think someone like you would be, just destined to do that.
Oh, that would be awesome.
My uncle was a pilot, and he not only flew planes, but he also liked to dive. And he had a fishing boat in Key West, and he would take us out on the boat and took us for a ride in the plane. And what else did we get to do that time? Oh, we asked if we wanted to snorkel. He liked to snorkel a lot and scuba dive, but took cameras down there and took lots of pictures. And I'm sure my cousin has all those shots. He's since passed away, just not too long ago.
Oh.
But yeah, interesting guy. But do you remember that show Carib back in the late 70s?
No, but I was going to say something about snorkeling.
Oh yeah, tell me.
Well, go ahead with yours, and then I'll.
Okay. Carib.
Carib, no.
Well, my uncle was the pilot that was in the opening shot. You'd see the airplane flying. It does this like turn in the middle of the screen, and then they bring on the title of the show. And he's the one that flew the plane in that.
I never even heard of that.
Stacy Keach was I think he was like a detective or
How
something.
long ago was this?
Back in the 70s.
Kareem?
Carib.
Oh, Carib.
Like Caribbean. Carib.
No, I don't recollect it one bit.
Yeah.
Stacy Keach, well, he should have been, he's a well-known actor, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He just recently passed away. I'm
Did
pretty
he?
certain of that, yeah. Jennifer,
Yes.
can you look that up for us?
Sending to display now.
Thank you.
That was quick.
Yeah, well, she doesn't mess around.
No, she don't.
Well, it says the show was about 2 Miami-based cops as they battled crime in the Caribbean. And it had starred Stacy Keach, Carl Franklin, Robert Mandan.
Now, is it Caribbean or Caribbean?
It's both.
You could either or. Huh?
It's an either or.
Okay.
Now, it depends on where you're from as to how you pronounce
What
it, I
were
guess.
you going to say? I'm sorry.
I don't know. But you were going to say something about
Snorkeling, yeah. Snork. Oh,
Snorky.
now I went to Waikiki in the 80s.
Hawaii?
Mm-hmm. And I was snorkeling out off this one jetty, looking at all these really pretty fish and everything, and you have your head down and floating on top of the water, swimming away, right? Mm-hmm. And they rented those little paddle boats.
Yes.
Thanks,
Used to.
Jennifer. But those 2 people sit them side by side. Mm-hmm. Okay, so anyways, I'm snorkeling away and just enjoying the scenery and everything. And all of a sudden, something hits my head. What the? And
Ouch.
Yeah. And I get up, and these people were paddling backwards. They weren't watching where they were going.
The paddle boards were hitting you in the head.
And they ran me over. And they're like, bat, 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 bat. What the hell? Oh, we're so sorry. I said, well, what are you doing going backwards and not watching where you're going? Look at all the people out here.
That explains your washboard head. I
exactly.
never knew
that?
that.
See, remember that dent right here I told you about?
Looks like 3 dents, yeah. Well, at least if you ever have to do the wash and your washing machine dies,
right,
you can use the top of your head.
Either that or use our road out here now.
Oh, yeah, you're going to complain about that again.
Well,
hi, Rockford.
It's getting worse now.
Yeah.
They're about 5 inches tall, the washboard is now out here.
Wow.
So you don't have to drive over it because
I'm earlier than you in the road.
Right.
Yeah. That's ugly.
It is. It's ridiculous, these idiots out here. But anyways, so.
Okay.
What were you going to talk about?
You know, we each have a child, not together. We have our own respective sons because we're married to nice women and all that. Well, Kateri and Jay Schwant of Rockford, Michigan. Rockford? His ears perked up. We're hoping for a girl, but instead, thank you, Rockford. Man, there's some healthy lungs on that boy.
Good boy. Lay down.
I said that so it wouldn't embarrass you because I knew people, it was coming from your side of the mic, and people were going to think you were just heavy breathing, and I wanted to explain.
That was Rockford.
But that's, I just wanted to keep it nice. They had their 13th son. They were hoping for a girl.
13?
Yeah, 8 pounds, 4 ounces. They opted not to be told of the baby's sex before it was born. Their eldest son is in his 20s.
People are idiots.
Well, if they've got the cash to support them, I'm okay with that. Anyway, a genetic counselor. I don't know if when your son was born, if you had such a thing as a genetic counselor.
Mm-mm.
They take you into a room and they explain the odds of you having a child with some deformity, mental or otherwise. And they talk you through it to determine whether you want to abort the child or not. I said, our counselor came in and told us that. And they said, well, you two are older adults. I was 38 when Nick was born.
Wow.
And my wife was a few years younger, but not much. And she says, we don't care. I don't care what the odds are. Well, in case you want to abort, I said, there's no such thing as abort in our family. So I said, whatever happens, happens, and we live with it.
Yeah, there you go.
And we'll love him just the same.
You're a good guy.
Well, I try. I mean, you got to accept the responsibility. You're the parent, and that's the way it works.
Yeah, you're a good guy most of the time.
Thanks, yeah. Most of the time. So their genetic counselor tells them the chance of having another boy was about 0.02% because they've had so many boys.
Well, he was wrong.
Yep. Or she.
Yeah, he or she.
Yeah. Can you imagine? 13 boys. Ay, ay, ay.
Can you imagine 13 children?
That's a lot of sweat socks. That's all I'm going to say.
That's stupid, though, really.
I got so tired of hearing, Daddy, wipe me. I always heard that every time you try to do something. Are you going again? Yes. Okay. I couldn't wait till he could learn things himself. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Well, internet sensation Gus, the skateboarding dog. Have you ever seen him?
No.
He was on YouTube and everybody was watching his skateboard
that like
videos.
The bulldog or something?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have seen him.
I have seen him.
He's been on the news too. Well, he got dog napped October 6th of last year. And you might have seen him doing his skateboard tricks on TV. A lot of news stations carried it. And YouTube, he's all over the place. They caught the guy in Carmel, Indiana, where both the dog and the napper are from. He was already serving a 6-month sentence on drug charges when he got arrested for the offense. So
serving the sentence?
Yeah, he was in jail already. But they found out that he was the guy that took the dog.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, witnesses spotted the dog matching Gus's description and called the police. And the dog napper said he just adopted the dog from the Humane Society. But, of course, when the police checked the records, there was no record of adoption. Mm-hmm. So he was a liar. Liar! Gus's owner, Christina Kiger, had offered a $4,000 reward on social media where they posted clips of Gus doing his video thing with his skateboard. Well, she says, the last thing that we thought is that somebody would steal our bulldog from our neighborhood.
Exactly.
It's not just a theft of your TV or someone coming in and taking your jewelry. It's the theft of your family member.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I can understand that. I'd say throw the book at the guy. Don't steal your son.
That's something
your
else.
Dog's son, because you're pet parents, according to the media. I just want to remind everybody, if you hear something in the background,
Yeah,
so
we have Rockford in here, my puppy,
your son,
my son, yes.
your little son, he's so big, and he just doesn't know what to do with himself. So he's wandering around trying to find something to interest him.
Either tear something up or something.
Yeah, well, not with us here. We'll keep an eye on him. But now he's just suddenly laid down, so he's all right.
Oh, you know what his new big kick is?
What's that?
Getting up on the back of the couch.
Besides chewing underwear,
Besides chewing underwear, yeah, and socks and what have you.
what's he
But
do?
yeah, he thinks he's still a little itty bitty puppy, but he's 80 pounds almost.
Yeah.
And he gets up on the back of the couch and lays down. I'm like, what are you doing?
He just stretched out with his back legs straight out. Mm-hmm. He looks like a teenager on the floor.
Yeah, he's trying to imitate a bearskin rug, I guess.
It's cute, but he's a huge dude.
He is.
And he doesn't know how strong he is either.
Yeah, or how big he is.
My voice is just suffering here. I don't know if I had drainage for the last week or two, but man, I feel like I'm not all there. It's like a tickle in my throat all the time. I hate that.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, I think it's allergies or something, or
Is
drainage.
that like drain damage?
Drain bramage, yes. It's a horrible thing to suffer through. But most families have at least one member with it.
Oh, that's too bad.
And if you don't know anybody in your family that does have it, then that member is you.
Drain damage?
It's drain bramage. Hey, an Ohio woman borrowed some urine from a friend.
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
wonder if she has to pay back with interest. Wonder how that works.
Well, down the back, probably.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, she borrowed some urine from her friend because she wanted to pass a drug test for work. It was a little bit of a problem, though, because her friend is a drug addict, too.
You gotta be kidding.
Can you imagine?
How smart are people, you know?
Genius, that's what I say. They're just genius. A 12-year-old Australian boy wanted to have an adventure, so he borrowed his mom and dad's credit card, and he books a flight, and he says, where do I want to go? How about Bali? That seems far away enough. So he uses his student ID to board the plane. Now, first of all, how is that even possible? How do you get on a plane with just a student ID?
I don't know.
You need a passport.
We go to Bali.
Well, you don't need
Where's
a passport to leave.
Where's he from?
He's from Australia, and then he just boarded a plane. Anyway, he's like relaxing on the beach, and all of a sudden the authorities catch up with him and drag him off and
we don't.
realize he's just an underage kid that booked his flight to Bali.
How old was he?
12?
Oh, my word.
Can you imagine? Hey, where's Eric?
Yeah.
Is he playing video games? No, he said about something about going on vacation.
Yeah. Where's your brother? I don't know. He said he wanted to go to Bali.
Hey, Jen, can you bring up all of the air conditioning? Because it's starting to get warm here.
All systems online.
Thank you.
Wow.
An English couple had their dog checked because they felt he wasn't normal. There was something wrong. And he just wasn't acting right. So they had him x-rayed, and at first they thought it was cancer. He had some sort of growth in his stomach. But it wasn't a growth. It was just teddy bears he was eating.
Oh, wasn't that a Great Dane or something?
He was a big dog,
or,
yeah.
Or what's the other big one? The big Saint Bernard or something like that?
I don't know. I know it was a bigger breed.
Yeah, he had 2 or 3 teddy bears stuck in his belly. Poor guy.
Yeah, buttons and
Well,
all.
it's just like this guy
Yeah, he'll eat anything.
eating underwear.
Dummy.
I didn't want to talk about that on the last show because it was.
A little too close to the time it happened, and you were close with that underwear.
I was.
In southwest China now, you can get out of a speeding ticket if you confess to it online, and you have to get 20 people to like your post.
Oh, my word.
So I guess it proves that 20 people saw you confess, and therefore you can get off the hook. Is that stupid or what?
Well, they should do that here.
I'm sorry, I speeded, I did it, and now I don't have to pay the ticket.
No, it's.
Careful, my wife's Chinese if she walks through the door.
That's right, huh? What did I say?
I think you said something about you're going to serve a shoe with cheese on it, with water chaser. No, in my family, there is no such thing as a racist remark. I'm Caucasian, my wife's Chinese, and my son's both. as far as he
Well, I'm
knows.
Caucasian. My wife's Italian.
Yeah, well, you're part Caucasian because you're also part
I'm Indian too. Yeah,
Indian, American, Native
I'm
American.
Native American.
Now that doesn't offend you if I say
How?
Indian, right?
Well, how?
I'll tell you how. Hi to you too. But
Wachicha.
people get offended over the dumbest things. Get over yourselves.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't care if somebody calls me a cracker. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, me either.
It's ridiculous.
Just don't call me a crackhead.
But don't chastise me for calling you something if you call me a cracker. But, it's ridiculous. First of all, stop calling each other names and just be who you are.
Right.
Which kind of reminds me, Meghan Markle, who's going to be a princess now. She's going to be marrying young Prince Harry, right?
Harriet?
Harry?
Harry.
No, not Harriet. Young Prince Harry. Isn't it Harry that's getting married to
I
Markle?
don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
keep
follow
up with
that
it. But
stupid
she's
crap.
I didn't know she was biracial. But she's a beautiful girl. I have no big...
Luckily, she's not bisexual.
That's probably a good thing. Otherwise, why get
Or
married?
do we know? Who knows?
No, but her father said that one time when she was young, she had to fill out some sort of questionnaire, and it asked her what her race was, and it had all these little check boxes: white, Hispanic, black, whatever,
Right.
And she said, "I'm not going to check any of these because I'm both." And he said, "Make up your own box and check that." That's what her father told her. I thought, good for him. That's a
Well, why didn't
smart
she
man.
Why didn't she just check white and black?
Well, she could, I guess, but that really doesn't fit the bill. But she felt that if she checked the white box, then her mom would be offended, and it kind of discounts her mom's part of her. And if she checked the black box, then she was denying her father. So I understand why she was a little upset with that. Good for her. She'd make up her own box and check that. I'm all for that. Title it, check it. Done.
That's it. And that's all she wrote.
And then I wrote, see, I'm stealing your lines now.
No, that's all she wrote.
Have you heard about Mr. Anton Williams, teenager in North Carolina?
What do you do?
Well, he had to make some decisions. He was, I guess, home watching his sister and nephew,
What were they doing?
and he was home alone with them, and there was a tornado in the neighborhood. But he was in the middle of a great video game. He was kicking tail on it, and he's not going to quit. He's, a little thing like a tornado shouldn't prevent you from finishing your game.
Heck no.
So he continued to play until he realized, oh, there's a funnel cloud out there. I'm going to get my sister and my nephew into the bathroom and close the door. And now you stay in there, and then he comes back out and he finishes the game. Now there's some good decision making.
He finished the game?
He finished the game.
I'll be
I guess
damned.
he was winning.
I guess the tornado didn't hit them.
It probably hit him later when his mom smacked him upside the head with a purse and said, "What are you doing, you idiot? Playing a game. You should be hiding in a safe place so you don't get killed." But apparently the tornado didn't hit his house, so...
But then I wouldn't have been able to finish my game.
But Mom, this game was epic.
I was winning.
Hey, the next time hundreds of pounds of marijuana go missing from your police evidence room, it might just be mice.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what the Argentine police officer said. They were fired for blaming mice.
Boy, I bet they were floating around.
And you thought, well, that's not fair. Maybe the mice did take it. Well, first of all, mice would not eat marijuana.
Well, you
It's
never know.
strong and potent. And
Who knows? Mice eat anything. Rats and mice, they eat just about anything. But
how
yeah.
about half a ton of it?
Well, they'd really be.
So I don't think mice carried off half a ton of marijuana. Oh, and by the way, that missing homework wasn't eaten by your dog, but perhaps that missing underwear, on the other hand,
Yeah,
that might have been taken by the dog. I think you could attest to that.
I can. I can.
You remember that, Garth, that story we were talking about with the guy that I met that got his pilot's license from one of the Wright brothers?
Yes.
Well, I've got a friend that I'm asking to call into the show, and we're going to talk about that and see if we can get him to tell us some stories about him and what he knows about the guy.
Oh, that ought to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So Jennifer will let us know. He should call in any moment now.
Your guest on line 1.
Oh, good.
Hi, Bill.
Greetings.
Hi, Bill.
I won't get.
Hello, Garth. Hello, Chris.
We were talking, Garth and I, about just interesting people we've met, And I told him when I was a young guy that you had introduced me to a guy who got his pilot's license from one of the Wright brothers. And we talked about that, and I said he had inventions as a claim to fame and, all sorts of things. And he kind of lived like a hermit. And I thought, why don't we just talk to you about him, because you knew him fairly well. So,
Yes, I did. I was George W. Kirkendall. He was born in Indiana. He actually went to school with Lindbergh, Charles Lindbergh, that flew the Atlantic. He was in school with him, his pilot school, and his pilot's license was actually validated by Orville Wright. He was the world's oldest living Cub pilot at the time.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is.
George lived just a block away from me, and I actually had a 1925 Deluge chemical fire truck. It was a Model T Ford chassis, and there was kind of a slight hill coming up from his house to get on the main thoroughfare to go back to my house. And one thing about Model Ts, they didn't have fuel pumps, and if you didn't have enough gas in the tank, and you try to climb a hill, you would run out gas. And that's what happened to me. And I was off to the side of the road, and all of a sudden I hear this voice go up the hill backwards. And I turn around, and here's this 80-some-year-old man, and he proceeds to tell me who he went to school with, who signed his pilot's license, within just a matter of 15 minutes.
Wow.
And he actually worked for Henry Ford, and all the choke cables and controls on a Model T he invented. He was a professor at one of the universities in PA. He invented high-intensity flood lamps for airplanes. He was the oldest living Cub pilot. Cubs are kind of a really small, lightweight, two-seater airplane. And as he proceeded to tell me all this stuff and that he knew Henry Ford and Lindbergh and everything, I kind of turned the truck around, went up backwards, and went home. I thought the guy was totally off his rocker at the time. Wow. I mean, I said, my gosh, that's the strangest man I ever met in my life. And I had the TV set on, and it was the Cleveland Air Show. And there's George W. Kirkendall having an interview, and he scared a pilot to death. At age 82, one of the experimental plane pilots said, "Would you like to take my plane up?" Of course, the pilot was with him in the cockpit.
Mistake number one.
Yes, George was at the controls and was doing somersaults and just absolutely scared the guy out of his vaginas. So that's how I met George Kirkendall. And after I seen the interview on the channel news there, I kind of, after a few days, went back down and introduced myself and who I was and what my claim to fame was, and became good friends after that.
Very interesting.
Yeah, he was an interesting character. I think I only...
Yeah, he lived by himself. The house was actually an airplane hangar. He lived in an airplane hangar.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and it was like a small garage that he kept his plane in.
Yeah, that's right. He had a low founder in there. He would cast aluminum parts and that kind of thing. He was around 80, maybe 82 when I met him. I think he died at 86.
Mom.
I remember we were discussing, in fact, maybe having an interview or something with him at one time, and of course things have changed and everybody moved away, and he passed away. I used to check on him every once in a while, and he's kind of disappeared, and he had a good life. I mean, he was taken care of. He had his own apartment and everything towards the end, but he was a very interesting person. I mean, he was also related to Sears and Roebuck some way. He was
really?
Sort of an heir to that. So
no kidding. Well, that makes life a little easier.
He also had Lindbergh's. He was adopted or something, but not. I don't know what the connection was with the Wright brothers, but he also had one of Orville's school chairs. Actually, had Orville's name on it that he had gotten somehow.
Wow. Did he have any children, Bill?
He did have a son. His son was into magic, and that's all I knew about his son. I never did meet the boy, because of course George told me he lived in Michigan and he created magic illusions and stuff and sold them for a living.
Oh my gosh! You know what? I think I know who that is because I'm into magic and I
Right.
buy
Yeah,
stuff.
you're into magic. All right.
I think one of the reasons George was kind of a hermit, and his wife passed away in the 1940s, and he was just a bachelor. He never did get remarried or anything. So the house is very unusual. I think it maybe only be 2 or 3 rooms. He never completed the house. The house that he bought and built for his wife was incomplete. And you go in and it'd be like a grand room, and it was to the outside. He just didn't complete anything after his wife died. He didn't care anymore.
Wow.
He was the type of person he would talk your leg off. If you first met him, and if you didn't know him or got to know him, you would shy away from him. And he was a robust man. He was 6'1", maybe pushing 300 pounds. The best handlebar mustache. He looked something out of the 1900s.
Yeah, I remember that. Very distinctive. And
Right.
I remember that we were at your house one time and we were standing in the driveway and I hear this motor flying overhead and you said, "That's Kirkendall." I go, "That's the guy we met?" And you said, "Yeah." And he's flying this ultralight, buzzing the barns.
I'll be darned.
I couldn't believe it. He waved as he went by.
What a trip. That's pretty neat.
How many times did he fly that all the time, Bill?
No, he did not. No.
How often did you see him fly? Because
Well,
I know
he
I
was,
saw
like
him.
I said, he was awfully old by the time I got to know him. So
But he was still flying.
yeah, but that was probably the last of it.
Yeah. Well, I remember that at least 2 times. I think I saw him fly that thing.
And what year was that?
He was in our neighborhood newspaper a couple of times, just on the fact that his pilot's license was signed by Orville Wright. I would have liked to seen him being maybe Grand Marshal or something for one of the 4th of July or Memorial Day parades, but nobody ever kind of followed up on it.
Yeah, that'd have been a nice little tribute. He also said when I met him, you actually took me to his house and you asked me if I wanted to meet him. I said, sure. So we were talking to him and he said that he had invented something like a hidden step on a plane where it would hide away when you closed the door.
Yeah, all kinds of things. I can hardly remember anymore. The aftermath of Kirkendall was more fascinating than the person in real life. A very good friend of mine had purchased the Kirkendall home after George has passed away and actually completed the house.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't hear that part.
Well, he had found
Well.
a whole case of sweaty dynamite under the staircase we were talking about.
Oh, that's lovely.
And one box of electric blasting caps.
He was a real interesting character.
He kept, yes. He kept the blasting caps and burnt the dynamite, so.
Oh, wow.
But they were sweaty by the time he seen them.
How does that work? You can burn dynamite and it won't
it's,
explode.
Well, just remember, Noble got the Peace Prize for that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Because it was safe explosive.
Right. It was nitroglycerin and sawdust.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember
It
that.
was compressed, and if it goes bad, the glycerin would sweat out of the stick. You could actually see it come out of because it's wrapped in paper,
Yeah, hey, I've got Garth's dog is here making an appearance. You'll hear him barking in the background. He hears people up above in our tunnels. We're in this 40-foot underground facility where it's safe from the wife and kids. But you can hear in the air tubes. You can hear what's going on up in the surface. I hear some
you
engine.
call them air
room.
tubes. You call them air tubes. We call them blow tubes here.
Yeah, same thing. Well, that's because of the Akron, the Quaker Square Hilton and the
Yeah.
underground oats tubes. They used to blow it under the street. A lot of people don't know that.
Well, our O'Neill's downtown Akron was several stories tall, and O'Neill's had only one cash register for the whole store.
Yeah, you're talking about
They had
O'Neill's
7
department store.
Wow.
Yes, the whole floor had one main cash register, which had maybe, a whole row of drawers for each department. And when you wrote your receipt, and credit cards back there were metal. It looked like a dog tag. It looked like a great big dog tag. It was stamped metal for your credit cards. And they would put your receipt in a blow tube, and it would go to the cashier on the top floor, and they would cash you out and send you your change down the blow tube. And
That's pretty. That's pretty high tech.
That is.
That's like the
high-tech
Jetsons.
For back then.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's something.
Now, my grandmother worked down near. Well, she worked in O'Neill's department store. She was on the drapery department for many years. I think it was 4th floor, as I recall.
I know we're getting off the subject here, but you were talking about Quaker Square. People nowadays, the kids wouldn't know how puffed rice is made.
That's right.
That's actually shot from cannons. That's shot from a cannon. They fill it full of natural gas, and they fill it full of rice, and they seal it, and then they explode it, and that's what makes puffed rice. But living in Akron in the late 1950s, that's all you heard all day long was booming.
I'll be darned.
The
Yeah.
rice cannons going on.
That is a true story.
Well, where would they shoot the rice into?
It would go into a room. It would just shoot it into a room, and they would just scoop it up and bag it.
I'll be darned. Isn't that something? That's amazing.
Now, Bill is an historian. He's a guy that was born way before his time, or
Well, I
way
was
late.
actually born- yes, I was actually born in 1925. What had happened now, guys? I know you laugh about this, but I worked for KDKA. That's one of the first radio stations in the country. And I was working on their transmitter when it got struck by lightning. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a baby body in 1955. So
Okay, we'll go with that.
Can't beat that, yeah.
I like that story. But yeah, Bill, I've helped Bill recover seats in Model Ts or Model As, I forget
I
which.
remember you told me that.
yeah, Model Ts.
Yeah, and what else? Oh, he taught me to drive a stick shift. He goes, "You want to learn to drive a stick?" And I was just in high school then. And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What year was that car?"
That was a 34 Ford panel delivery. That's what that was.
Wow.
It was like a Keystone Cop delivery panel
Yes,
van.
yes, it was. Looked just like the Keystone Cops.
Yeah, and now I shouldn't say this, but it didn't have a gas tank anymore, so we used a boat gas tank.
Well, let's just say the gas tank on it wasn't safe.
Okay. So yeah.
It was less expensive to put an outboard motor tank in the under the seat than it was to fill it up with gas.
But totally illegal. But it's okay. It ran safe. We were okay.
Well, I did get pulled over several times, but they always told me not to go to speed limit and let me go.
Not to go the speed limit.
Yes.
So Bill has been a friend of mine since I was probably 16 years
18.
old.
Yeah, that's about 18.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe
16.
you are correct.
Yeah, because we were into CB radio then, and Bill was on the CB, and I got to talking to him, and he sounded like an interesting person. So I'd ask him questions because he was into history, and I found out he knew about antiques and whatnot. And then he tells me that he goes, "Well, where do you live?" And I said, "I'm over here." And I said, all my cousins went to high school where I went, and
Yeah, I was actually neighbors with his cousin.
Yeah.
We actually played together when we were little kids, so I knew his mom's side of the family before I did Chris.
yeah, so that's how we met, and we get to talking with him. Well, I know this guy, and he knows that guy, and we know the same people. So it was kind of interesting.
Of course, I was kind of flabbergasted. I was probably 23, and he had a set of pipes on him then, sounded like he was 43,
Yeah, I fooled a lot of people.
So that
on
was in the 70s then when you guys met?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, correct.
Yeah, I was, I don't know what year I was in school. I was still in I think it's probably the summer of my 9th grade year, I think.
Well, it had to be like 77, 78 or something like that, because I
Yes.
was still living in East End of Akron over there.
Yes, that's right. And that,
In the house with the revolving wall.
yeah, yes. See, now, this was the cool thing.
The house with the revolving wall.
Yeah, Bill is very creative. He finds projects. This guy, I know he's not going to demur on this, but he's a genius in his own right. He knows how to rebuild transmitter tubes and or put tubes into radios and fix things that are old from the 20s and 30s and even older. He's got wire recorders, Edison phonographs and all sorts of stuff. So his house was full of antiques. He loves them.
Is he the one that redoes the piano?
Yeah. He does player pianos. He rebuilds them and fixes them. In fact, he takes the keyboards off of them and makes them into band organs. So things that will play multiple instruments like triangles and xylophones, and they're player pianos that play all sorts of instruments.
That's amazing.
Which that's what was around before the invention of the recording disc. Your 70 RPM records, before that was invented, your player pianos were orchestrated and played drums and whistles and flutes and xylophones. And I mean, if you went into a bar, that was your jukebox.
Exactly.
Wow.
And people don't realize that they actually play pretty loud. Some of those would drive you out of the room.
Yeah, fairground organs are, you'd hear them clear across the fair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember in the old pizza parlors, that's what they used to have.
Right, correct, yep.
And they were even coin operated.
I'm actually old enough to remember banjo machines in a saloon that we used to go to at the lake.
Wow.
There's a little tavern. It was there since the 1800s, and they still had a coin-operated banjo machine.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
I've seen those violin machines too that would play violins.
Mills Violin Virtuoso machine was the 7th mechanical wonder of the world. It could play twin violins and a keyboard.
That's amazing.
That is.
That's ingenious. Well, Bill can fix those things. He can take them apart, figure out how they work, put them back together, and he's just got a knack for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've been on quite a roll here for the last couple of years, repurposing items and turning them into working objects. I just did a patio propane heater that somebody threw away and turned into a working 1920s gas station air fill machine. It's all Texaco, and it's got all the original stuff on it that actually looks 1920s. I mean, when I do a project, you can't tell it from, I don't know why, but everything I touch looks like 1920s. I've actually made parts for people, and they said, you didn't make this, you found this. I said, no, I made that.
He's a machinist. He can build anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, well, one of the coolest things he did, his house was full of antiques. When you walk into his house, it looked like you were transported back to the 20s and 30s. And they're all beautiful working pieces. And he says, come here, I want to show you something. So I went upstairs. He showed me the whole house, gave me the tour. And this is when I first met him. And he was, shortly, a few months later, he said, I'm going to turn this wall into a solid wall. I just want to build a revolving door where it's hidden so I can hide things. And I said, okay, cool. So he told me what he was going to do. And a few weeks later, he calls me up. He goes, come here, I want you to see this. And he goes, I need help putting something up. And I forget what we did. I don't know if I helped you hold it up or something.
Yep, I had it on centers and ball bearings, and I used a crucifix. It had a button on a crucifix that you could.
It was like
you
a
could press the crucifix
perloid
on the
button.
door. The whole wall would revolve open.
Wow.
So you would push the button, and an electric solenoid would pull the bolt out of the door that was the lock for it.
And what topped it all off really good, I had a 1920s floor model radio attached to the wall, but it was like a quarter inch off the floor, so the radio went with the wall.
So it looked like the radio was on the ground, but it was actually hanging on the wall. And you couldn't tell because of the shadow it cast. And whenever you push the button behind Jesus, you'd pull him off the cross.
Yeah, you had to pull Jesus off the cross.
And then you push the little perloid button, it would pull the solenoid, it was electric, and then you could push the door open, and it would spin. And what hid the door frame were furring strips he put on the wall every 3 feet.
Right.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and some people like to talk about doing things like that, but Bill does it.
He does it. He does it, or he does it.
He does it. So that's cool.
That's fantastic.
I was drinking a lot of seltzer water, and it got so expensive that I went and got a 3-gallon Cornelius keg and a CO2 tank. And I was keeping it in the basement, but I was running downstairs all the time for soda water. And I said, that needs to be in something and off the floor. I think it took me about a week and a half, and I made a working 1950 soda fountain. And it just came out absolutely beautiful. I had bought confectionery porcelain syrup inserts from a drugstore they tore down in Oregon, and just piece parts of this thing with turn-of-the-century stuff. And I went to a Reclaim Habitat place and got a kitchen cabinet and cut it all up to make it work. And I got the best soda fountain you ever seen.
Oh, I bet. Did you find that stuff online or something, or?
Yeah, both. I bought antique tin signs. It's all wallpapered with the 1910 Coca-Cola girl, and some ornate stuff that I repurposed, like Coca-Cola door handles and stuff I used for artwork on the cabinet and that kind of thing.
That's amazing. Simply amazing.
Yeah, and I have pictures, but I could get Bill to send me some to show you. But
Yeah, I want to see them.
they're absolutely stunning.
Just give him my info for the Facebook stuff and
Oh yeah.
everything on there.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, my gas pumps are on there. I started out making gasoline pumps. I used to do the old Fry, the gravity-fed real tall ones before they had electricity. The way they pumped gas, you had to use a lever and had a hand pump. And you would pump your gas, and it would go up into a cylinder, glass cylinder. It was graduated, 1 to 5 gallons, or 10 gallons, depending on how big this pump was. And then you would just siphon your gasoline back into the car. And there again, I'm actually old enough to remember going on vacation in the 50s down through Georgia and actually still seeing these Fry gasoline pumps still being used.
yeah, they're amazing. I mean, they're beautiful. People collect them, and now they're getting a lot of money
Well, that's the reason I do what I do. If I went out and got an Echo filling station air pump, I know everybody remembers them. They had a little crank on the side. You set it for your poundage, and they go ding, 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 ding when you put your air in. They want like $3,000 for one of those today.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, okay, I can make one for $20, which I did. I got maybe a couple $100 in, because I actually put 1920s real stuff back on it. Your milk glass globe that says free air and that kind of stuff. And I did buy a really big compressor to put inside of it.
They're making a lot of refurb items, aren't they, for these old things?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because people are finding the original.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No.
I mean, if it's shot beyond repair, make something else workable out of it,
Well, why should something sit idle and not be used or appreciated?
That was my belief on my collectibles and my antiques and stuff. I wasn't afraid to use anything. Well, there or then I could fix it if it didn't break.
The last thing I remember you doing, besides the air pump, you had shared with me you were making cones for speakers.
I am by technology. I'm not antiquated because of the people I associate with. I haven't stopped learning. So I just purchased a 3D printer, and what I was doing, I restore pre-1920s radios. In the 1920s, you couldn't buy a radio. You had to make it. You bought parts and made your own radio.
Who knew?
No kidding.
Radios didn't become commercial until KDKA went on the air with the presidential campaigns, and they confronted RCA, says, we need radios because it's working and we want people to hear us. Well, RCA did not have the capabilities. They were engineers. They had laboratories on top of the Empire State Building. They confronted Westinghouse because they were the ones manufacturing the vacuum tubes for experimental use for amateur radio operators. And they were the ones that contracted for KDKA to make radios available to the public. And there were 1 or 2 or even crystal sets. And they were manufactured. There was the first commercial radios. That's the oldest set I ever restored is one of those. And later on, Atwater Kent, if you remember Atwater outboard motors and Atwater solid-state ignitions and stuff on automobiles, he went into mass production on receivers so people can have radios.
Wow. See, I didn't know all that history. Bill's full of history and other things.
Be nice.
But no.
I think my eyes are brown.
But yeah, it's been great knowing Bill because he's so inventive and creative in the stuff that he does. And if I ever have a question about repairing something or fixing something, I ask him and he goes, yeah, you can do it with this, that, the other, and it's real simple. And I go, it didn't look simple. No, I'll show you how to do it.
Well, I never could do any radio older than 1930 because anything before that are battery operated. And those radios back then had maybe 4 or 5 batteries. You had A's, B's, which you don't see anymore, C's, D's. I mean, you would take, to run the filament, you would take your Model T battery, your 6-volt battery out of your car every night. You'd have a battery charger for your car and take the battery out so you could listen to your radio.
Isn't that something?
No kidding.
That's amazing.
But I learned how to make solid-state power supplies that could handle anywhere from 6 volts, 22.5, 43, 67.5, 93, and 130 volts.
Wow.
So now I can restore older radios now because I learned how to make power supplies, which I just tickled me to death. I've just learned that in the last couple of years.
That's cool. So see, kids, you can do anything you want to if you want to take the
Well,
time to
it's
learn.
like this, guys. I always told people that ask me questions. I says, well, if you don't know something, read a book. Because that's where I learned all my stuff. Now today, when they ask me, I go, look on YouTube.
Yeah. Go on the internet.
You know, I think
on the
YouTube
internet.
is the untouched resource because
Well, I was able to open you lock your keys in on something that's, you can't get in, it's foolproof. There's always a way if you look on YouTube,
that's right. I had an iPod that I had to unlock.
Well, I
'cause-
was never able to work on complicated stuff in the car. My dad taught me how to do brakes and, change out your plugs and maintenance on your car. But, if something like, your automatic door window or something would go, that's a chore. That's a hell of a thing to take a car door, a truck door apart and put a new motor and stuff in it.
Yes.
And, I had the thing during a rainstorm on my pickup truck stick halfway down. There's nothing worse than that, You don't want to drive around with a piece of plastic taped to your window.
You don't?
No.
People will talk.
I mean, I bought the part, brought my laptop out, set it up, and within an hour and a half, I had the door fixed and the new window motor put in. So I think YouTube's a wonderful thing.
I do too. I've been able to fix lots of things with it. It's
And what's
amazing.
really nice now, I have access to every schematic that I would ever need on the internet. I can find anything I want now, and I don't have to go and dig it up or ask or look for some radio guy that's 102 now. He's got a schematic for a Crosley 90 or something,
Or worse yet, have to pay for it.
That's correct. Some of those are, they start at $12 and go up.
Wow.
I've bought a lot of manuals.
That's very cool.
That is.
One of the projects that's on hold right now that I want to make actually a player organ. The guy had piece parted a console and a set of organ pipes were over 100 years old, and I think the keyboard came from a Sacred Heart in Cuyahoga Falls. And he made this organ to test pipes. He tunes organs for a living, and you can actually bring the pipes home, reupholster. They actually got like lambskin to tune them. They got a tuning plug. The thing has to slide up and down into the flute to make it, or the whistle to make it blow right. That's where you tune it. And he made this little console to tune pipes. So he put a rack of pipes in and used the keyboard and everything. And he gave it to me and enough pipes to build an organ. So I got this pipe organ, right? A working pipe organ sitting in my garage right now. And I won't mention the name, but they're into resin castings. They make gargoyles and lawn ornaments. It starts with a T, guys. It's awesome. Anyway, I bought all these medieval dragons. And this is what this organ's all decked out in.
No
Gargoyles
kidding.
and dragons.
That's cool.
And I actually modified it and put it back the way it's supposed to be. He had modern stops, if you know what a stop is on an organ.
Yeah, it's one of those little tubes you pull out.
Electric switches, but I went back with the pullouts. Right,
Okay.
you are correct. Yep.
Yeah, so the pullouts
he
channel
was
the
amazed-
air differently.
He was amazed I got it that far. He was tickled to death that he gave it to somebody. Of course, I was an organ. We always joked, his stuff blows, my stuff sucks.
Yeah, player pianos using the vacuum.
Vacuum, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, there's another story that, because I know you and what happened at the time, tell the story about that Pony camera that you bought and you found the plates in there.
Oh, Lord. I was a professional wedding photographer a short time. I always had cameras. This was a long time ago, and it was a flea market in northern Ohio. It was there since the 1920s, and it's not there anymore. They made like a outlet place, put outlet stores in. It was the oldest flea market in Ohio, but it's no longer there. And I had just come across this Pony Formosa, and it probably dated maybe 1909. And if you don't know what that is, that's a 4x5 folding view camera, and back in the day, you didn't have roll film. You had what was called a wet plate, and you had to saturate this with silver bromide in a tent or a dark room, and put this wet plate in your camera, then go out, shoot it, then bring it back to the dark room. Anyway, I took it all apart, cleaned it up, and it had 3 film holders. That's what would hold your sheet film or your glass plate. And they seemed awful heavy, and I pulled one back to open it up, and I said, oh, this has got a glass plate in it. So I closed it back up, and I'm really not familiar with that kind of a processing. So I went ahead and went in the dark room and fixed some chemicals and just ran it like you would modern safety film. And I was just absolutely amazed that it was the creepiest thing that ever happened to me. There was 2 men and a woman, and it was late 1800s. The guys had handlebar mustaches that were absolutely amazing. And the girl had the real high lace collar, with the brooch and everything on it. And I never did give them names, but I have those. I made prints off the plates, and that was just strange.
Spooky.
So he has those pictures.
Yeah. They were, the plates he's talking about.
Trapped in a box for 100 years.
Wow.
The plates are actually the negatives.
Right.
And they're painted
correct.
with that chemical so that they're photosensitive.
A lot of people don't know that Brady, that shot all the Civil War photographs.
Yeah.
He also shot pictures of Lincoln, he was famous for.
Right.
And the war was so horrific that nobody wanted to see that stuff. And they actually, in the day, Ohio was the capital of greenhouses. That's where all your plants and everything came from, Ohio, if you did your gardens or flowers for nurseries and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's not here anymore because natural gas went up so high that they tore them all down. The glass plates for all these greenhouses, they were able to build them so cheaply because they were Brady's glass plates from the Civil War, and nothing plate we shot.
That is amazing.
That is very...
I mean, you could walk into a greenhouse and look up and see photographs.
No kidding. Negatives. That's wild.
That's simply amazing.
Well, on that note, we're up against the time. It's time to close the show.
Talky. We have ways of making you talk.
Yes.
Hey,
and talk is what we do.
Can we call you again?
Yes, you sure can.
I love these stories.
You can call me anything you want, just don't call me Shirley.
Okay. Or late for dinner, right?
I have to crawl out of this bunker hole that I'm in and get some air.
Yeah.
I'm probably deeper than you.
You probably are.
Well, everybody got the gold and I got the shaft.
That's what they say. Yeah. Well, Bill, I appreciate you coming on the show with us. That's really nice of you.
Indeed.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
And we'll do it again for sure.
Okay. Sounds good, guys.
All right. Well, I'll let you get off to dinner, and I'll be in touch.
I'm doing baby ribs. Everybody got a rack of ribs tonight.
I wish I could eat ribs.
Good stuff. Wow, that was like a visit from Old Home Week.
That was. What a fascinating guy he is.
Yeah, he's a sharp cookie, and I'm proud to call him a friend. I've known him so long.
I don't blame
He's like my older brother, or just like you. We hit it off and didn't know each other very long. And
yeah, what a shame.
Yeah, I don't know for whom, but but yeah, he's the guy can invent anything. If something breaks, he's always helping the neighbors, and just like you.
I'd like to meet him and sit down and have him talk about some more good old stories, boy.
Yeah, we'll check in with him again because he's got some interesting stuff.
He does. That's fascinating.
He's into old antiques, and he always finds great stuff at yard sales and all these old antique stores and whatnot. But we do have to wrap things up as it's almost time to go.
Yes, it is.
So thank you for listening, and we appreciate you being there and being loyal and all that. Hey, if you know anybody that would be interested in listening to the show, we're going to have more guests on. This is our first guest, and I'm glad that it was Bill because it's kind of historic for me. But if you know anybody that might be interested, please share the show. And if you're listening on iTunes, give us a good rating if you would, please. Yeah. We appreciate that. And Bill did mention that his dog is going through some problems. So pray for his little dog, Sasha.
Puppy prayers.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening.
Yes.
We are the Bunker Boys. I'm Chris.
I'm Garth.
And good evening to you.